In 1999, one man built a world with no privacy. Not metaphorically, literally. 110 cameras, every room, every bathroom, every sleeping pod, and 100 people voluntarily walked in. They gave up their image, their sleep, their relationships, everything they did, strangers watched, live, commenting, rating. And here's the part that should actually stop you cold. What those 100 people became inside that building, you became anyway, just slower and without noticing. To understand what happened in that building, you have to understand the man who built it. Josh Harris grew up in California. His father worked for the CIA and was rarely home. His mother came home exhausted from work, so Harris spent a lot of time alone with a television. Years later, he described screens as feeling more predictable than people. Television gave him something his house often didn't: attention without unpredictability. As an adult, he became obsessed with the question: what happens when people stop separating their public lives from their private ones? Then the internet arrived. Harris founded a tech research company called Jupiter Communications and made millions during the first dot-com boom. But what interested him most wasn't software, it was behavior. He threw huge parties in Manhattan packed with artists, programmers, investors, and celebrities, and he watched what happened once cameras appeared. People changed, not dramatically at first, just small shifts. They became slightly louder, slightly more performative, slightly more aware of themselves. Attention changed behavior automatically. Harris wanted to know what would happen if that pressure never stopped, so he rented a building in Lower Manhattan. It's December 1999. Y2K panic is everywhere. People are stocking food. News anchors are talking about system failures and social collapse. At 353 Broadway, Harris builds something between an art project, a surveillance system, and a social experiment. He calls it Quiet. We live in public. Participants are offered food, shelter, alcohol, entertainment. Everything is free. You pay nothing, except one thing: your image belongs to us. Sit with that sentence for a second, because that's not just the terms of a weird art experiment, that is the exact business model of every social media platform you use today. Written on a wall in Manhattan, 25 years ago, everything is free, except you. You are the product, now. What this place actually looked like: 110 surveillance cameras. Every hallway, every room, every corner. The sleeping pods were narrow, barely mattress width, and every single one had a camera pointed at it. And a screen. So you could watch other people's pods. You weren't just being watched, you were watching. The line between audience and subject dissolved on day one. There was a communal dining table, a free bar. Transparent bathing areas, open, visible, no curtains. And then the detail that tells you everything about how far Harris was willing to push this: a shooting range, underground, in Manhattan. Art, alcohol, weapons, zero privacy, all packed into the same pressure cooker. Harris wanted to find the exact point where a community cracks. Here's what everyone predicted would happen: people would become careful, controlled, guarded. Classic logic: you're being watched, so you behave. Harris found the exact opposite. When being watched comes with attention as a reward, when visibility means community and recognition and belonging, people don't shrink. They expand. They escalate. They perform harder. They push further. Some people broke down emotionally. Some people turned themselves into characters. Some people did things they never would have done alone. The absence of a backstage didn't create authenticity. It created theater. Everyone wore matching uniforms, erasing individual identity, replacing it with a shared brand. There was a confession room, actual interrogation-style psychological pressure. People were pushed to expose themselves. The message the entire space communicated, without a single word, was this: privacy is failure. Openness is participation. At dawn on January 1st, 2000, as the millennium turned and the world didn't end, the NYPD raided the bunker, the shooting range, the safety violations, the sheer surreality of what was happening underground. The experiment was shut down. But what it had revealed? That wasn't going anywhere. One man built a surveillance prison in a Manhattan basement, handed out free alcohol, and was surprised when it went badly. The experiment was called art. The police called it something else. For a few years after the raid, quiet basically disappeared. Harris lost most of his fortune when the dot-com bubble burst. He had a breakdown. He retreated to an apple farm upstate, the man who had built a temple of public life, hiding from everyone. Then, in the late 2000s, a filmmaker named Ondi Timoner assembled thousands of hours of footage into a documentary called We Live in Public. It won the Grand Jury Prize at Sundance. And audiences sat in those theaters having the same quiet, unsettling realization. This already happened. This is my life. Because by 2009, Facebook had 300 million users. YouTube was billions of views a month, and every single one of those platforms ran on the exact same contract Harris had written on a basement wall in 1999. Everything is free. Just give us you. Think about your day tomorrow. You'll take a photo, choose the right one, adjust the light, write a caption that sounds casual but took 3 tries. You'll post it, and then you'll wait for the likes, the comments, that little signal that says, you are seen, you exist. That's not a social network. That's a bunker with better Wi-Fi. After the bunker, Harris didn't walk away from the experiment. He repeated it. On himself. He and his girlfriend agreed to live under 24/7 cameras in their apartment. Every fight, every quiet moment, every private conversation. Broadcast live. With strangers commenting in real time. The relationship deteriorated. Not from incompatibility, not from external pressure, from the audience. Harris later said the viewers became a third presence in the relationship, an invisible, always watching force that changed how they spoke to each other, how they reacted, how they thought about themselves. That is not a dating story. That is a diagnosis. Platforms don't reflect our lives. They restructure them. They create a feedback loop between who you are and who you perform yourself to be. And over time, the gap between those two things gets harder and harder to see. So here's what actually happened in that basement. 100 people walked in voluntarily. They traded their privacy for community, for food, for belonging. And within days, they stopped being themselves. Not because they were forced to, because the audience was watching, and the audience changed everything. Josh Harris saw all of this in 1999. He built the experiment, documented it, watched it play out in real time, and then watched the entire world adopt it as normal life. The bunker is gone. 353 Broadway is just a building now. But the bargain is everywhere, and the most unsettling thing about all of it? Unlike those 100 people, you never saw the cameras go up. You just woke up one day already inside.